It's finding a spot.
That's nice. Very peaceful.
It's nice night.
It is nice.
You're in town?
I boogie down the shore. I'm like, I want to do a run tomorrow. It'd be nice to kind of whatever. So I just came down here.
Nice. Whole fam or you?
No, just myself. Escape from everybody tonight.
Okay.
I think Ioana wants to come down in the morning, but I have to go back to work. So if she wants to come down and stay, then I'll commute back and forth. If not, I'll see them tomorrow.
Yeah, it would take you about an hour to do the trip anyway. Not a bad ride.
Yeah, I need to get a couple things down here, so I need to bring a truck down here. So on the weekend, it's rough coming down here with the truck because there's fucking, especially if me and Ioana are here, I can't park it anywhere. So with her not here, I'm able to pull the truck in my spot and do the thing I had to do.
Yeah. People started to come down this past weekend, I bet a lot.
Yeah. You know what? I did notice that this past weekend, traffic started. Like, whereas up until now, it was no traffic coming down over here. And even just coming down over here tonight, there's a lot of cars on the road. It's just different than it's been the past, you know what I mean? Like, I got used to driving nobody on the road.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, and it's funny, like yesterday when you were talking to Greg, I heard my other neighbor, Kathy, talking through his thing. See, I believe that Greg connects his thing to a speaker, and he's like right next to me, and next to the house there outside listening to this. So then when he unmutes himself, sometimes the neighbor walks over, and then if she's talking, that's why you were hearing that noise yesterday. Okay.
I wasn't sure where that came from. Now I know. Yeah, I traded texts with him today. I told him I have the book for him. He said that he's hanging down there for a couple more weeks and that you give him the book and I just swap one, maybe give you one tomorrow.
You know what? As we're talking, I'm walking it over because
Okay.
I just grabbed it and I'm like 20 feet away from Greg. Greg, are you listening? There you go. Look, he's just signing in now. Here, Greg, here's the book. Catch. We were talking about it, and Ken just mentioned it. Ken, tonight make the announcement of what the sound garden is. Like,
yeah.
Because I was telling Greg about that too. It's like, you know what? At one point, I was reading the book, and then when I got a little tired of reading the book, I just started listening a little bit to the book. So it was just convenient to kind of just play it while I was driving.
Yeah. Greg's not on yet, but maybe he's signing up. No. Yeah. It's, Let's see. Give us another minute there, folksies.
Ken, you got to get a haircut, Ken.
Hell, dude. Yeah. It's like, well, that haircut's open Monday.
They opened. That's it.
Yep.
Give you the Ralph Aquaviva cut. You don't need to go to a barber shop.
Yeah.
It's funny. This year, I gave 2 haircuts. First time in my life I've ever given haircuts, and I gave 2.
Wow. Well, you got
good job at it too.
No, we have 2 more kids.
We have 2 more clients for you, Mr. Ralph. Hey, Ken.
That's right.
How are you?
I'm doing great.
So I wanted to tell you and everybody else listening that the audio clips, recordings of the chapters are on a website called SoundCloud. I think you just have to go soundcloud.com and then type in Office of Shaman, maybe, or I think so. Type that in.
Yep, that works. Shaman that's the first chapter.
I'll look for it and I'll let you know if I get it. That's great.
Cool.
Thank you.
Good. All right. Well, all right. Well, I guess we've got enough of a critical mass. How's everybody doing tonight? I'll take that as a splendid. So, here, I'll say it this way. We said that, well, maybe you read it, or maybe we said it. We've certainly said it before in this series. I can't remember if we said it in this one or the last one. Metaprogramming entities communicate with metaprograms. It's a curious phrase that you might be unfamiliar with. But let me say this, okay? It would seem common to think that human beings communicate with words. Human beings communicate with words, but is that really true? I mean, it is, but we say that more accurately. Let me ask it this way, okay? I'll give it to you from the perspective of a like a 12-year-old girl. I have 3 girls. Each of them has already passed 12. No, I don't want to do that, Dad. That's example 1. Comes example 2. No, I don't want to do that. No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. You always make me do that. If I were to say that, if I were just to leave it that we communicate with words, I think you'd all see that the communication in all of those examples was different. I mean, does it make sense? I mean, you have to almost, you have to say that you really do. You have to say that the communication's not in the words. It's, I think I'd go so far as to say it's never in the words. In fact, the words could be often distracting to be able to see what someone is actually saying. And you guys all, everybody knows this just from the examples that I gave. All of the ways that, like we have people, people come into the float centers with all sorts of things going on. And, some of them, have issues with valuing themselves and they think they're poor, pitiful little pumpkins. And so the communication sounds something like this. Well, I don't know, yeah, work's going okay. And I'm really thinking I'm going to apply for that job because there was an opening and I put it into my boss and, my boss says that I have a really good chance of getting it. Okay. The point I'm making, can you see it, is that communication, what's actually being said there is not in the words. It's not. It's way more accurate to say it the way I said it before, that John Lilly said it. Metaprogramming entities communicate with metaprograms all the time. You do, me do, we do. Does raise an interesting question, though. Do you know what you're communicating to people? Do you know?
I wonder if anybody knows what a metaprogram is.
We ought to take a look at that. Do we have a definition somewhere here that we could put up?
I don't know. If anybody would have it, it would be Terry.
Yeah. Maybe we got the upside down pyramid-y thing.
No, I don't think that's the one.
You think that's it?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. I think metaprogram, a set of instructions, descriptions, and means of control of sets of programs. Now, I like that definition there.
What the heck does that mean, Worthington?
Well, a program is just really simply a set of instructions to do something, right? To talk, to walk, to chew bubble gum, to sit down and watch Genghis Khan. All those are like programs types of things, right?
Yep.
Okay, a metaprogram would be a big asshole program that controls whole bunches of little programmy doodles. Okay, for instance, getting into a car and driving it someplace is called a metaprogram. but there's lots of programs that are involved. There's steering the car, there's braking the car, there's accelerating the car, there's filling the car up with gasoline and making sure that the oil is changed, there's keeping air in the tires, there's even putting passengers on and putting the seat belts in place so you don't go flying through the window when it is that you forget about half of this stuff at one time or the other.
Yeah.
So those are all those are all programs that go into the meta program of driving your car. Now that's a simple little idea of it, illustration. There are more difficult ones though, and one of those would be, like you were saying, people who how people say things. So when people communicate, one of the things that you have to pay attention to is how are they saying it. Greg, you need to pay attention to that one very carefully, because I'll guarantee you you're being grin-fucked some because of people of how they're saying it, that you're thinking is one way and they're not really meaning it that way. Now, how do we tell if that's the case, and how do we check? How do you do that? I mean, that's a fascinating concept that you have to figure out, right?
It is a fascinating concept. It is, but I know that simply repeating that back to you doesn't answer the question.
That won't help you at all, will it?
Well, let's start from maybe here. It's when I gave the examples before, and I used my use different meta programs, let's say, because that's what I was doing. You guys did.
Yeah,
I know you never,
I never listen. I know.
Nobody ever really listens to me.
That's terrible, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really the complaint I got.
You know what? If I were you, I'd tell your mom about that. Nobody ever listens to you.
You better not. That you can hear it. That's palpable. But I know when I'm hearing
painful
too. Yep.
Right?
Palpable. I know when I hear a meta program, it's got this, roughly speaking, it's got the flavor of emotion. But I know there's something behind it, underneath it. There's something driving it. And that thing is a self-meta program. Well, let me make that more maybe clear. It's a belief. It's something we believe is real. So, yeah. So it's the thing that makes sense to pay attention to, because if you're gonna want to know what someone's actually saying, you can't. You're gonna be really distracted. But if you pay attention to the meta programs, well, then you've got a clue about what that person actually believes is real, what they think is real.
Yeah. Okay. Here's one I like a lot. Okay.
Go ahead.
So, how would come in with closing that deal with the McDonald's?
Ooh.
Well, they're I talked with him, and he's got to talk with his partner, and his partner's in Europe until after the coronavirus.
This is a great example. And then everybody's like, all right.
Yay, huh?
Yay, we got shit's getting done.
Oh yeah.
Man, that Worthington's all over it.
Yeah. Or it's all over Worthington, one or the other.
Yeah, one or the other, right. But that's a good example, because that's a fairly typical office conversation. Right. Give me a status report on the Penske matter.
Oh, that's the one. Yeah, yeah. Well, we talked with those guys last Thursday, and they had to get with their investment guy, and he's all in, because we just had to send him the paperwork on how we were going to do the job.
Yeah.
No, we don't have a check.
You don't have a check?
Well, no, but I'm sure that's not going to be a problem. I mean, they're good for it. You know what kind of money we're talking about with those guys, right?
Okay. Time out. I got some red flags at this moment.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Oh, red flags. What do they look like? He queries.
Well, there's a misrepresentation going on in the report about the McDonald's and the Penske file.
Uh-oh. But how could that be?
There's a whitewash painting, and I think everybody can tell and sniff that one out.
The thing is, if it's whitewashed, you can't really see where the edges are because it's all the same color.
Well, that's true.
That's the point for whitewashing it, isn't it?
Yeah, that is.
So how would you tell that it's whitewashed?
I would. I'd ask about it. I'd find out. Because I already know that something's amiss.
Yeah, but how did you know that? See, that's the thing that I wanted.
Okay,
I don't know.
yeah.
I'm clueless.
I knew that because there was nothing in your meta program that told me that this was really going to happen. You had painted a picture of everything is on track and don't worry about it, boss. And can we go on to the next thing?
Well, see, here's the thing. This is where people kind of don't like me because, see, here's the meta program I use when I hear that. I say, hey, are you the guy that's doing this Penske thing here, are you? And you're the one that's talking to McDonald's, right?
Yes, it is my matter. What are you getting at?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, if you don't have a check and you can't tell me where the fuck this all is, I don't think I need your silly ass around here. So either find the fuck out or get the fuck gone. Which one you want to do?
Ooh, you're being very direct there, my friend.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, you can take the boy out of the country, but you can't
Yeah.
out of the boy, they tell me.
Yeah. Maybe we would. Yeah. Well, what do you think, Ralph and Greg and whoever else is listening? Look at what Worthington wants to know. I have to say that if you're going to get anything done, might as well find out where real shit stands. Pardon my French, or not, because
Do you know why?
why?
Well, because the thing is that guy who was answering there doesn't have enough experience. He doesn't know that he's getting the runaround. He doesn't know that the decision has already been made and he wasn't part of it, for instance.
He lacks experience.
Well, let's just say it like that. He's not old enough. He hasn't done this enough times. He hasn't lost enough times. He hasn't watched this sale fall apart right here as many times as you did, right?
Yep.
He doesn't know. Now, here's the thing. The problem is that he's not looking at something as seriously as he should.
Okay.
Okay. In other words, he's treating something that he knows is real as though it's not really all that important.
He's treating something that he knows is real.
Yeah. He knows the same things. He knows the same things that are true about that deal as I do. He's been there and actually talked to them.
Yeah.
He was on the phone. He actually talked to them. He didn't lie about that. He actually did that, right? He heard that and he didn't know how to he didn't know how to close the deal. He didn't know what he had. He didn't know where the value was. He didn't know how to make the sale, etc.
Yeah, I think you're pointing to an experience deficit. He lacks experience.
That's all, right? So the thing is that if I say to him, well, Mister, you probably ought to go back and visit with them again because there's a chance that they wouldn't be telling you the true thing. What's his response going to be? Well, oh yeah, no, I know. I talked with the secretary and she told me that it was, whatever his proofs are, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because he's convinced himself that that's a true thing. So I have to bind up some time for him. And the way I do that is with a meta program. And the meta program that I'm choosing to use as an illustration here is, hey, fuckhead, you know what? You're getting screwed here, dude. Now pay the fuck attention here. These guys already made a decision, and they're cutting you out. Now find out what the hell's going on and why. They don't see value in what you're selling. Now, what the hell's going on with that? Don't you believe it or what?
Yep.
Because those are all questions I had to answer that hard for me to make a sale, because the sale was really that tough. I had to be that real and that honest and that right down to it and say, look, you know, let me get down to it here. I don't want you wasting your freaking money on that job, that thing that you're gonna spend it on over there, because you're gonna spend it again to pay me, because that he can't do it. That won't get done what you want to get done. I got to tell you the truth about this. Paul that runs into that every day.
Yeah. Have a
Today, I ran into that today. So.
Oh, well, see, today was one of those every day. There's one of them. Yeah, today, I'll bet, huh?
okay.
You have to.
Want to share or?
Yeah, oh yeah, that'd be great if you would, Paul.
Oh yeah. So it's actually got a little backstory. This particular client of ours was a client 5 years ago and was going through a big move, and they didn't like our proposal to move their network and get them into a new space. And I got on the phone with the owner and I said, yep, that's what it costs. Yep, I've been doing this about 20 years. Yep, that's what it's going to cost. I wouldn't recommend doing that. No, don't go to somebody else. It's going to be cheaper. It's going to be a problem. Okay. All right, thank you. And he hung up the phone. They canceled their contract with us, went to a discount provider, and 12 months to the day, we got a phone call. And they said, whoops, we made a mistake. You guys were right. We're in deep. Can you help us? And I said, well, only if that doesn't happen again. And so now we're fast forward another 3 years, and we just had a conversation related to the work that they didn't do with us. And they've been suffering for the last 3 years. And we finally told them, look, we're not going to support your network if you don't get this taken care of. And they're taking care of it. And they're taking care of it the way that we said they have to.
Well, it's the reality, right, Paul?
He can't argue it. I can't argue it.
Okay, see, that's the problem. See, we all think that our opinion and reality is the same thing, and it's not. There are simply real things, and we as a society don't do that real thing figuring out very well. And the reason is that we don't realize that we're talking to each other with meta programs.
Okay. So how is it that talking to each other with meta programs, which we do, lends itself to the possibility that we're not talking about real shit. We're talking about fantasy stuff.
Okay. I've had recently a conversation in my kitchen, actually, with a resident there, and it's not vermin; it's actual resident, and that individual allowed us to how the kitchen required way too much work. That it would probably be, everybody could know that, you have to take a day off and be off and have a day for yourself. And somebody else who also lives in that kitchen space said, have you ever been a mom? And in that one question, that other person who had been a mom apparently, or perhaps therefore would still be a mom, time bound for the young person in the kitchen without any experience, thinking that cooking was really terrible for their own personal time. They didn't see it as fun. And that was what the mom person was trying to say was, look, being a mom's work, cooking shit's fun. So it's like, you see, if you know what it is that you're looking at, what meta program you're using to communicate, then that changes what's being said, right?
Yes.
In other words, if I'm saying, oh, you're always wanting, I never can do it right. I need some time for myself, but I don't say it quite that animated.
Yeah.
Like it really says, I say, well, sometimes I think I just need time for myself.
Yeah.
It's the same meta program. It's just been toned way down. It's been painted over. It's still there.
I don't know what I could say about the evolution or paying attention to meta programs, other than that, it does when you, I'm not even sure how to put it this way. When you try on the tools, let me say it this way, that we're talking about here, you will pay attention to meta programs, I would say, like you've never done before. I hear meta programs. I want to hear meta programs, because if I'm listening for meta programs, then I'm listening for what is actually being said. The flip side of that is being in command of a meta program means that I can say something the way that it needs to be said, so that the information has a maximum ability to be received in the other end and stick there.
Well, what the
No,
hell are you talking? What in the hell are you
hold on.
talking about, boy? I can't even understand this meta programming shit. You talking about big asshole words that y'all use over there in New Jersey, and we folks down here in the rural, we can't even figure them out. Them big old words. I
Yeah.
have trouble enough with a program. I had one of them one time, and it was a GI program, and my ass hurt for a month. It was awful, that program was. Yeah. Is that what you're talking?
Yeah. Terry, do you have the upside down pyramid? Oh, wow. That's fast.
That Terry, you just got to stand back.
Look at this. There's like an arrow from the bottom that points up.
It is. There's a little blue arrow.
Yep.
Damn. That's a cute little thing. Look at that.
What's that there for? Does that have anything to do with what we're talking about here?
I have no idea. You have to ask Terry, because she's the one done that. I ain't never seen a little blue arrow like that be that cute.
Well, Terry or somebody, talk to me about direction here, about
Those are chairs. Oh, I like the chairs there for a minute. I was trying to get comfortable.
anybody want to weigh in on? Well, I'll say that kind of the hint, maybe, or the answer, or at least part of it, is in what it says in.
You know who could explain that? I'll bet
Who?
you. Edith Bunker.
Edith Bunker. I know an Edith Bunker. She lives in New Jersey now. She is retired. Archie is long since passed, and let's see if we can get Edith Bunker. Edith, are you out?
Hi, Ellie. How are you? I'm fine.
Hello, Edith. How's Archie?
Art, sleeping.
He's rolling in his grave.
Yeah.
Pretty much retired. Nobody wants to listen to him either.
So what's this here?
Okay, so we're communicating from the self-meta programs on out. That's what's down the bottom. It's what we think about ourselves, and it got in there when we were little kids. This isn't hard. It's not a program like the GI program. It's what's in your head, you know? It's how you think about things. And then the meta programs are how we sound when we're talking. And that gives you a big clue of what's really going on in the conversation. And then we make up reasons. Once it gets up to the logical part, we make up reasons for what we said in the first place.
Wait a second. You're telling me it's like you're saying that logic is at the end of the chain, the last to know.
Last thing we use. We all act as if it's something important, but not a single thing we say is based on logic.
Yeah.
It's based on a self-meta program.
Well, y'all folks over there in New Jersey can speak for your own selves, because over here where I come from, I guarantee you that we use our logic over here. Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you do, but it's not wait to last. If you wait on logic to make sure the tractor doesn't tip over when you're going down the road, you're gonna be tipped over. Logic's too late. You have to think faster than that.
You mean I'd have to understand I shouldn't be cowboying the tractor? Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, yeah, no, you shouldn't be cowboying the
I
tractor.
think what we have here is a failure to communicate.
You
our
have
own self,
to be
but
paying
okay.
attention to everything that's around you.
Well,
Otherwise,
if I was
you have to say-
cowboying the tractor, I'd tip over, because that would just be illogical, then, etc. Logic would never pull me back from that. Never mind. I shouldn't have said such a thing to a nice old lady from New Jersey.
See if I can figure out another way. Okay.
So Edith, like, what's a
If you have to think logically about what gear the tractor has to be in and how you have to turn the wheel and how you have to apply the brakes, and you have to think about it first, it's going to be too late. You're going to be down the hill.
I better have had already done all that before I
Yeah.
start the tractor, I think, really. Yeah. That had already better be done before I get up on there, because I better know why I'm going to do all that.
You need to know it first.
Yeah, if I don't know why I'm going to do it, then I won't know what it is I'm supposed to do, right? In fact, the why I'm going to do it,
talking.
the why I'm going to do it is going to determine the how it's done, right?
You betcha.
Wow. Well, you old broads from over New Jersey make sense sometimes, don't you?
Every now and again.
Yeah, well, I wish you'd just go make a fucking cookies and shut the fuck up, because I can't stand that accent. I gotta tell y'all, y'all got terrible accents. Y'all do,
I'm good at cookies.
Good, thanks. I submit that yours being everybody listening, your relationships, your business, your everything you do is driven from this direction, which is to say, if you're not paying attention to what you're using to communicate, then you're like flapping in the wind, as they say. Do we all know people that?
Wait. I'll bet you there are people who are going to tell you that they're going to use meta programs to communicate.
They're going to use them as if what? Like they're going to pick them up? What does that mean that they're going to tell me that? Well, metaprogramming entities communicate with metaprograms all the time, said John C. Lilly, neuroscientist.
Yeah, I know, but here's the thing. A wheel is a tool, right?
A wheel is a tool.
Yeah, it is. It's a tool.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And so I'm going to use a wheel when I drive a car.
Not so much, dude.
Oh.
Yeah, that's built in.
When you say it like that, it doesn't make as much sense, does it?
Doesn't make as much sense.
The wheel in the car is all part of the same thing. So if you drive,
yep.
The wheel has to be there, right? Or
yeah.
Yeah, it's not that I'm going to use it. That's how the car moves, is with the wheel.
Yeah. In other words, this is not a model to be built. This is a model to understand understand what already is. Your car.
It's already running.
Already runs like this.
You're on the 405 or the 5 going north, and you're going 80, 85 miles an hour. And you're in town, and there's traffic wall to wall.
Yeah.
If you're on the 10, you're going to go that way all the way to the Arizona border, actually.
Yeah.
Then when you cross the border, there's going to be a whole bevy of highway patrolmen over there giving you tickets.
Yeah.
You mean that's a part of driving a car?
Yeah, all that stuff.
Well, that's a lot.
Yeah, I know, but that's what meta programs are about. See, it's like you say, okay, I need a way of going from LA to Las Vegas, let's say, or from LA to Phoenix, and a car seems to be that's the best way. I believe that that's the way I can get there. So I purchase a car with air conditioning, and I go to one of those destinations, which one I believe is more fun. And of those two, Vegas is way easier than Phoenix because Phoenix is just hot and dry. At least in Vegas, you can lose all your money. So anyway, and pretend like you won it. Anyway, the thing is that the car is part of the whole reason for having the car is to self-meta program what I believe I'm going to use the car for, to transport me and how and what style and why I want it and so forth. And the music I play and the color the car is and the motor it has in it are all the meta programs, as it were. And so I can, well, I have a little bumper sticker on the back of the car, get in, sit down, shut up, and hold on. That's the programs right there about driving. And then, I stop at most of the stop signs if there's nobody much around. I slow down at the other ones, kind of. I've lived in California.
Just hold for a second here. Hey, birds, come on! I'm trying to say something here. The I see this. Those of you that, with kids might appreciate this. I have 4, and Ariel is our oldest. And when we sort of spoiled her. Let's just say. I remember we doted over her and made sure she never fell down. I remember being at a playground here in Bridgewater, where I'm at now, once when she was maybe 2 years old, and the playground had just opened, and there was some other girl that she was playing with there, and the other girl was there with her grandparents, and they were up to something, and throwing rocks, and you're not supposed to do that in the playground. And Maria and I were like, Ariel, you really shouldn't be doing that, honey. Now, the grandparent sitting next to us, whose daughter was playing with Ariel, said, Tabitha, get the fuck down from I mean, it was really, and Tabitha got the hell down with that. My wife and I looked at each other, and like we were aghast that, who would speak to their child like that? Well, then came kid 2, then came kid 3. Eventually, we recalled that story and said, damn, had we paid attention back then to what grandparents were doing with Tabitha, we would have saved a lot of time. We would have been time-bound. We would have gotten the benefit of why parents do such things like that. But I suppose that doesn't apply to the workplace, right, folks? Right, Greg or Ralph or Pat? That can't possibly, or Nicole. Hey, Nicole, how you doing? I see you on. Good to see you. I mean, it's all right. It's crazy, right? I think what Worthington's talking about with the car analogy is being in command, being the steersman of your meta programs. So you can make a point. Grandparents knew this. Ken Kaplan and Maria Kaplan didn't have that experience back then. We were like, no, you can't talk to your kid like that. Grandparents knew you're going to get that lesson through so that kid's not throwing rocks in a playground. Yeah. Okay. Got that. What do you guys think? It's crazy talk here, or can you relate? Can anybody?
So Ken, I feel like, all right, hearing this thing now for the second time, first time I was really interested in the meta programs and how it works really with myself. And I still am, because I think there's 2 avenues, like you're saying. There's these meta programs and self-meta programs that work for ourselves, understanding that. And then what's going on with other people. So now, and this time around, like as we're going through these books, I'm just like in my mind, I'm thinking about the people I encounter, the people I talk to or make deals with, the people that work for me, trying to recognize what their meta programs are about, and really what are they trying to tell me. You know, like I think about my Mo situation. That guy Mo is a real good guy. He's diehard for the company, but a lot of times he's fumbling with this this meta program that he's causing himself, and it causes him to be aloof. He fumbles around the answers. He doesn't want to give the right answers. So it's something that he's doing in this meta programming that.
Hey, Ralph, think about it like this. What he's doing, start to see if what he's doing is one of these three things. Is he fighting? Is he freezing? Or is he fleeing? Is he running away? Is he hiding under the bed? Or is he picking a fight and arguing?
Fight, flight, freeze.
Okay, so he's doing one of those. If he's doing one of those things, there's a threat. And that aloof thing that you're talking about, that's a red flag for me that would say that he's freezing and he's scared to death of what he doesn't know, or the worth that he doesn't have, or that he won't be in your favor, or, oh God, it goes on forever.
I agree.
It's just because of all the stuff that he doesn't know about himself. If you can take that away just by whenever you see him do that, say, what are you afraid of? God, come on. There's nothing to be afraid of. You're okay. The reason I ask you is because I wanted to hear what you think.
So,
and you'll have to tell him that like 1,000 times.
Yep.
Like with that said, John, I took like a word from what Ken was saying. So I've known this guy for years now, and he's been running a location himself as a GM for a year and a half. So he's still relatively new at the position, but he's been with the company 5 years.
Okay,
anyway,
cool.
when he started doing this, like it's a phrase Ken says. I'm like, hey, I told him, I'm like, Mo, you're doing this thing. And then once I explained it to him and he got it off his chest, I feel like, he was grateful. He wants to learn more about it. But now I've realized, and I'm realizing that his discussions with me, he's more direct with his programming, at least to me. You know what I mean?
Then what you did is that you let him cross a threshold for himself. Just let him. You're not trying to save him. You've already opened the door for him. Now watch and see what he does.
Right. I need him again. If he can be less aloof, more of an asset for the business, less time consuming. Him calling over nothing.
So keep on reinforcing that thing that you've already done.
So now to get back to getting to the meta programs and seeing in people.
Stop before you do that. Stop before you do that. Why do you play a slot machine?
And hopes to win.
You win sometimes. So if he wins sometimes, if he gets what he wants, which is your approval sometimes, he'll keep on going, so he doesn't need your approval. But he has to win sometimes, just sometimes.
Now, like in his programming, I think with me, because it was like, it's been brought out and maybe he felt comfortable. Maybe he's been being more direct with me. And I'm in hopes he tries to do that with other people. Like
slow down. Did you read that thing that Pat asked me about that I posted in the Slack page?
No.
You need to do that one because you'll like that. He asked me about the stalking idea, and maybe he can tell you what made a difference to him. But what he said is that the idea that warriors have 4 moods, and that's ruthless, patient, cunning, and sweet, and they're that thing all the time. But then they apply it in terms of battles, and every time you talk to somebody, you're in a battle. And so you have to think about how are you going to present, what are you going to do in that battle in terms of your communication. That's what we're trying to get you to see here. And you do a lot of this stuff already. for me personally, what I'm trying to do is get you to name it.
Hmm.
Okay.
Say those again.
Let me tell you it then. And so the moods of a warrior is a way to talk about what John said. And there are four that he mentioned: patience, ruthlessness, cunning, and sweet. All of those are meta programs you can bring to bear. But the point John's making here, and the point that we're making tonight, is it's a really interesting one because it's taken me a while to really see this. And that is that, man, I was sloppy with communication. It didn't occur to me that communication really does things. Whether you like it or not, it does things. It'll dig you in a hole in your business. It'll dig you in a hole in your relationships, or it'll create wonderful things that you deliberately want to create. But like the car example that John and I were talking about being the steersman and actually being in control, is really the point that we're making here. If you can take command of these meta programs and you can bring to bear on Mo or whoever else, sometimes Sweet Ralph, sometimes Cunning Ralph, sometimes Ruthless Ralph, sometimes Patient Ralph, those are ways that you communicate, or you can communicate. Go ahead, John.
Mostly, it's all of those Ralphs at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
I mean, those four terms. It's very interesting how you put it that way. I'm just, thinking about how deals go and communications happen. They definitely fit into those categories in some way. You could make yourself be that.
Yep, they do. Now, not only that, if you looked at the seven ideas there that's presented in terms of what you do to stalk, there's the 7 ideas. I don't know if you can read them or not, but but first you have to start with this idea. It doesn't matter what anybody says or does. You must be impeccable, because we have to fight the idiocy that's in us, and that's what matters. The rest of nothing else matters. Just we beat back how dumb we are. So
Yeah, the idiocy within us, you said. Yeah.
So we choose the arena. Okay, so the first principle of stalking is that warriors choose their battleground, and a warrior never goes into battle without knowing what the surroundings are, and then we focus. To discard everything that is unnecessary is the second principle of the art of stalking. We align our meta programs or our motivation, or we call intent, however you want to think about that. Apply all the concentration you have to decide whether or not to enter into battle. For any battle, it's a battle for one's life. This is the third principle of the art of stalking. The warrior must be willing and ready to make his last stand here and now, but not in a helter-skelter way. We trust the process. The fourth principle of the art of stalking is to relax, just abandon oneself, fear nothing. Only then will the powers that guide us open the road and aid for us. We pay attention to the moment. Oh no, we cycle out of the battle if needed. The fifth principle is when faced with odds that cannot be dealt with, the warriors retreat for a moment. We pay attention to the moment. The sixth principle: warriors compress time. Even an instant counts. In a battle for your life, a second is an eternity that may determine the outcome. And in seventh, we are covert, not overt. A stalker never pushes himself to the front. Only a master stalker can be a master of controlled folly. It is not outright deception, but a sophisticated artistic way of being separate from everything while remaining an integral part of everything. The worst thing we can do is draw attention to ourselves. Those are the way that we actually make a sale, or we stalk a business deal, or we decide what we're going to serve in a restaurant even.
What's helter skelter?
Helter Skelter is like just like caution in the wind. Fuck it, It's like
It doesn't
who
make any
cares,
difference. Whatever I want to do.
Da-da-da, charge. It's like without consideration of what we're facing or what's at stake or what the battlefield looks like. Helter Skelter. If you go in Helter Skelter, that's what that means.
I've never heard that term. That's interesting.
Yeah. Interesting. The interesting thing too is that this has this ring of war and battle, but is every communication we have all the time.
There's a new twist to the book this time. I didn't see these 7 things. At least I didn't pay attention to them last time.
Yeah.
Well, this is from a different class, but Pat had been to the class and he knew to ask about it and wanted this information again. So there it is.
That's interesting. That's actually a lot of information, Ken. I feel like you gotta kind of go through it again with those 4 other terms, sophisticated. You know what I mean?
That's the reason why that we put it on Slack so you guys can refer to
Yeah.
it.
Get the app on. Get the app on your phone. It'll ping you. Even you can turn notifications on.
That's on my tomorrow project. My tomorrow to do.
All you have to do is just write Slack on your app and download it, and voila, there you got it, dude.
It's funny. I already have it. I just have to create the account.
You're already set up, and you've already been invited. But I'm sure that Jenny or Vanessa will re-invite you just because they like you, Ralph.
Yeah, if they re-invite me, I'll try to connect. 'Cause I'm pretty sure that I'm all set. I just don't know how to search things yet on Slack.
There's nothing to search, really. You're only on one thing. That's it.
All right.
Yeah.
Get me the connection.
Yep. We'll give you a hand if you need it. No.
I'll bet you it's on its way as we speak.
Yep.
If I know the efficiency of Jenny's and Terry's and Vanessa's.
Yep.
If that pinging sound I hear is your phone, then I know what it is, what it's about.
No, I'm digging this sense of, again, I don't want to call it like a direct communication, but getting in one with yourself meta programmed for really to be a communication. I'm thinking about meetings I'm about to have and what I want to say, and these terms you're saying, like, what we're talking about is really influencing like how I'm going to say these things when the time is coming.
You already do all those things, Ralph. All it is we're defining what it is that you do, really. I mean, this is not something that you put on like a suit of clothes. These are things this all works in the biocomputer this way. All we're doing about this stuff is reporting it to you. Now, in terms of stalking and those kinds of things, those are natural processes. Those are not processes that we necessarily have to learn, but they are. It's like walking. We don't necessarily learn to walk, but although we learn to walk, right?
Yeah, but it also is helpful to learn how to explain it.
Yes, that's the thing. That's the reason for the language, right? That way you can begin to see what you're doing for yourself.
Because I'll tell you, like, on a couple of things, like, I know I was with Ken and I used the term of controlling the folly, and people want to understand that. Like, what do you mean? And then if you explain it a little bit, then they, you get their attention a little bit. But if you can't explain it, then it's, it's like you look foolish.
Yep. That's true.
If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. Albert Einstein.
Getting dark where you are, Ken. Can you see?
Yep. It's getting dark. See. Maybe that'll help. Probably not.
The waning light of the day. This is the end of a novel, or the beginning of a novel, I guess.
Yeah.
Or the romantic part just before she comes out of the bedroom and notices the pressing bulge in his britches or something. What?
Yeah, I'm gonna be looking over my back now for the next 6 minutes of the show
Oh,
with this.
Ken,
Go ahead.
for guys like Greg, how does this all tie into floating? Greg is like new into he wants to try floating. So is his wife. And you know, you've been talking a lot of the mental. How does this all kind of tie in quickly for I guess people that are out there listening too?
Okay. That upside down pyramid that we talked about, that's all. This is all part of who we are. We're not adding anything to you got to. We're just helping you guys see a structure. And so there you come into my float tank center, Mr. Logical, trying to control the world, like people are often prone to do, especially in these parts. Go ahead, John.
You've only got 7 minutes, okay?
Well, this speech only goes 10, so all right. Shorten it for me.
Yeah, okay. Okay, dudes and dudettes. Terry, please put that pyramid up again, okay? Here's how it works. It's really simple. When you float, you go all the way down to the very bottom of the pyramid and you kind of hang out there. That's what happens when you float. Okay? You go down to the self-meta programs because there's nothing else that's working in your brain, dudes and dudettes. That's all the stimuli from the outside has been cut off. And so what you're left with is who you actually are, your self-meta programs. You're who you are, what you believe is real. The cool stuff that you actually are. So the reason why we have to know about this is because we know that when you get out of the tank, that the entity that lives in that self-meta program is who we're going to have to talk to, because we're going to listen to that individual or that meta program or that entity until you get back up to your beta logical subroutines that you think thinking is. And until you get back up there, we're not really ready to send your butts out and put you in a car and turn you loose on the freeways of America. We'd like for you to have some tea and to come back up to reality, because you could spend some time down there in that self-meta program and it looks real, but it ain't necessarily, because you don't really have any discipline down there yet. Now, the reason why we talk to you about these things is because we know that you're using that place down there, and that's the reason why you come to float, is so that you can say, oh yeah, that's the place, I want to use that, I want to put that to work. But you got to have the way of talking about it so you can do it.
Yep, what he said.
I did.
That's a good description. Yeah.
Yeah. Language takes on a more interesting aspect of having a functional aspect. When you hear what John just said, that you're building a language so that you're improving the map that you can navigate with. Otherwise, you're like, whoa, dude, that was amazing. And then you get all sped back up and
oh no, don't do that. No, stop that. Stop.
Yeah.
Get away. The living dead, they're coming.
And then a half hour later, you're talking to yourself again from your place of logic, and well, then you come back and float and do it all over again, and until you learn a language to understand what the heck is going on there.
Okay, well, I'm going to go away because I've got to do another one of these in Spanish here in about 3 minutes. So nice to talk with everybody. Greg, I'm sorry I didn't have more time to spend with you tonight. I wanted to talk to you for a few minutes. Ralph, it's nice to visit with you as always. And so we'll see you all later. Bye.
We'll see you, John. Thanks. Yeah, good. Well,
Thanks,
guys,
John. Bye.
Edith, thank you for coming on. And
Good to wave at you now and then.
yep. I think I might have to have another location tomorrow because it's pretty darn dark here.
We just need to see your face a little better, Ken. That's all.
Yeah.
I just need a little front lighting.
Yeah, I got some candles.
The less light, the better, Ken. Don't kid yourself.
Thanks, Ralph. I'll take that as a compliment.
Mood lighting.
I've always said, who needs enemies? What are we talking about tomorrow? Who's keeping track of chapters?
Differences.
Okay, that's a odd thing to talk about as a tool. I mean, we talked about programming. We talked about moving the assembly point. We're talking about communication differences. Huh? Why would we talk about such a thing tomorrow?
Guess we'll have to show up and find out.
Okay. Well, let's do that then. We're going to talk about observing and making differences, and why that tool is one that you might want to pay attention to. Again, everything we're talking about you already do, or is at least as part of. I'd say it this way because John said, stalking. Yeah, Ralph, you do that. We do that. People do that in business, but you can get better at tools. Any tool that you use, you can. I've seen. When I started practicing law, my jaw would be hanging open with what some lawyers can do in terms of navigating through a business deal, in terms of getting from point A to point Z. When for me, it would be like it just looked like it was how'd they get there. But the more you practice tools, the more familiar you become with them. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right. So then we'll see you all tomorrow.
All right. Good night, Ken.
Thanks all. Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you. Good
Thanks,
night.
everyone.
Thank you. Good
Thanks,
night.
everyone.
Thank you.